three, 3 or 4 years. That was an interruption. And I would like to suggest, if you were interested in selling or buying a property, what would matter most to you is an understanding of market trends. Um, uh, Market trends are going to help you make an informed decision. Currently, Wilmington is burdened with an assessment process that is not rooted in the market analysis, but instead it emphasizes cost of construction, hypothetical depreciation schedules, and land schedules based on vacant land sales in Wilmington, which there are very few of. It's a hypothetical mathematical model. This system that you're burdened with is almost entirely based on third-party inputs. The cost manuals are provided by somebody else other than your assessor. Depreciation tables are guided by somebody else other than your assessor. The land schedule is supposed to be local, but I'm guessing there just aren't enough land sales, vacant land sales, to correlate a contributory land component to the overvalue or the overall value of a property. The land is one of many components, as we know. The other issue that calls your attention is that this assessment was prepared, admittedly, by not visiting physically any properties or any sales in Wilmington. Similarly, it was prepared without a reliable database, such as MLS, universally used by the real estate industry at a cost of no more than $1,000 a year. So the assessor has the benefit of no physical viewing of any of the properties in Wilmington as a part of his responsibility of reporting a market value, fair market value, tonight. I would also say that the document that I saw that was prepared by the assessor to come up with this value is not prepared consistently with any standards of professional appraisal standards. This is made worse by the absence of any Vermont state assessor standards or oversight. I would ask that the good members of the BCA realize that we are trying to determine two things today. We're trying to determine what the fair market value of this property is, and I have emphasized market data. And we're also responsible for making sure that that fair market value is equitably factored to the aggregate ratio of current assessments measured against sales. My report provides you with, I don't remember the numbers, 100 sales that shows the sale price of properties since April 1, 2024, and the assessed values. And I would emphasize that your job tonight is not only to find fair market value, but to realize that the town of Wilmington is assessing their good taxpayers at an overall aggregate rate of 70% of fair market value. And I would suggest that you have a responsibility to share that benefit with the property owner who's appealing tonight. Now, that said, I've provided this report some time ago. I don't know whether anybody had a chance to see it in advance. I hope so. I did add a fourth sale today at 3:30 when I received for the first time the purported analysis by the assessor of market value. And I would just say that there are two condominiums that have sold this year that are very, very similar in attributes to the property that's owned by Schultz. They're similar in size. They're a little older. Some have been remodeled. They're built on slabs. They're right on the golf course, and they're probably within throwing distance of the Schultz property. This is relevant data, market data, and I'd hope you'd consider it when you decide what the fair market value of this property is. With that said, I'll take any questions.
First, I'll ask Russ to respond to the appellant's testimony, please.
Well, there's a lot of inconsistencies there, but for starters, the way we value the condos is with a market model only. We don't use a cost approach. Condos, when somebody buys a condo, they own the interior only. They don't own the exterior, and they have a vested interest in the common area. So we actually create a market model for each condominium complex within the town. So Haystack Island has a model specifically designed using the sales from that complex only. We don't look at sales of any other condo complex. So if there are sales, recent sales in a condo complex, we use the sales only from that complex. There's too many variations between condominium complexes. Along with the physical attributes of the building, some complexes may have tennis courts, swimming pools, other amenities that are combined to develop a market value for the property. So by using any other complex, there's a risk of comparing something that's really not that comparable. So the sales, I submitted a spreadsheet which lists all the condos that sold in Highland condos, the sale price, the assessment ratio, when they sold. And there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's basically eight sales of condos in that complex that were used to develop the market model that we have. The last page of so there's two. I submitted actually two sales studies. So the first one, which I'm talking about now, was basically 3 pages, and the last page. So I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see this. This is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, thank you.
So at the bottom, I highlighted the assessment ratio. So the sales in that complex, the median ratio is 94%, which is close to, the state CLA, which is roughly 91%. So the values contradicting what Mr. Buckley said, we don't use a cost approach for valuing condos. There were sales that were available to determine the market value for this property, but Mr. Buckley chose not to use any of the sales in the condo complex that this property is located. There was actually, I submitted 2 other property record cards, one for Mazza, Green Tea Place 7, Unit R1, and LaRusso at Tea Lee Place 7, Unit R2. These are almost identical condos to the one that to the Schultz condo. They are currently valued at $680,540. So these are condos that are on slab. So there's only 3 condo units in the complex that are built on a slab. The rest have basements. So I submitted these 2 because they're very, they could be almost identical. And as comparable assessments, the Schultz property is actually valued lower than these 2. Because after there was a grievance appeal, I took off the basement, recalculated it, and it came up to basically 665,000, whereas the other 2 units in the complex, I lost the video here. We okay?
You're okay. At least we can see you. Did you lose us?
Well, it turned white. The whole screen turned white. It says it's
Ah,
loading now.
We can see and hear you.
We can hear you.
We
Rob.
can see you okay.
Okay, good. Okay. So as comparable properties, these 2 other units are very similar. And again, the Schultz unit now is actually valued lower than the other 2. I also submitted a spreadsheet, which I don't know, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I lost your video.
We're here.
Basically, I created a sales analysis citing 5 other units in the complex only. And using a market comparable approach, the assessed value of the calculated comparable value came out to $701,300. I'm sorry, $701,000 even. So the market comparable approach that I used showed that the subject property, because it didn't have a basement, we made extensive adjustments to the sales in that condo complex that actually did have basements. So if you look at that spreadsheet, I deducted for the total living area, made an adjustment because the living area is less on this unit because it doesn't have a basement. I also deducted for the actual basement value, and then I also deducted for the finished basement. And by making those adjustments, the market comparable approach came up with the value of 701,000. Now getting into the Mr. Buckley's appraisal, which I found a lot of issues with. The first being the actual subject property and the comparables weren't even defined. So if you look at page 3 of Mr. Buckley's appraisal, you'll see the adjustments page where he determined what the adjustments would be based on the comparable attributes to the property. So when I looked at this, I couldn't even determine which was the subject property or any of the comparables. I went through and I had to look it up. So when you're doing an appraisal of condos, it's obviously important to identify the unit number. There's no unit numbers in his appraisal. So I had to go through myself. The subject property is actually Unit 2 at Green Tea Place. The first comparable that he had in his original appraisal was actually Unit 8D of 191 Man Road. Comparable 2, I think he replaced comparable 2, which was on 25 First Lane, which is actually Unit 14. So anybody picking up this appraisal wouldn't even know what they're looking at because the units weren't even defined. That's one of the basic issues I had. The other thing is, looking at these addresses, the 191 Man Road actually has 3 units in it. 25 First Lane has 4 units in it. 29 First Lane has 4 units. So the only way you could know what you're looking at is if you actually researched it and try to find out which unit he was actually talking about. When I looked up the sales online, I found out that actually 2 of the units that are 2 of the comparables that he was using, 25 First Street, 25 First Lane, Unit 14 was sold as unfinished, unfurnished. Unit 19 at 29 First Lane was actually sold furnished. And there was no indication that any adjustments were made for the fact that personal property was sold with the unit. So the sale price that it was listed at $430,000 was the $430,000 actually included personal property, which wasn't defined by the appraiser. Another issue I was looking at was the location of the unit. Typically, when you're doing appraisals of condos, you identify whether it's an end unit or an interior unit, and whether the actual location in the complex has an influence factor on other comparable units actually in the complex. But there was no location influence factors at all related to whether the subject property was an end unit or the comparable properties were end units or interior units. The subject property is actually an end unit because there's only 2 units. The other comparables may be interior units, they may be end units, but it wasn't defined. There, if you're looking at that spreadsheet again, if you go down to the line called design style, if you go to comparable to on the original appraisal that Mr. Buckley submitted, he stated that the condo is 2.5 stories on a slab when it's actually 1.5 stories on a slab. Going down further on that same spreadsheet, in the column of features called condition, he stated that the condition of the subject property was average. Comparable number 2 said it was remodeled. Comparable number 3 said it was remodeled. What used to be comparable 3, he put in as average, but he made a $15,000 adjustment. When if the condition is the same as the subject, you wouldn't be making any adjustment at all. So that is a mistake, a typo, or is a mistake on the appraisal. Going down further, there's an item called rooms below grade. For comparable number 2 of the original appraisal, which is 25 First Lane, Unit 14, it states that there's a walkout. The term walkout is typically only used when there is a basement. So he stated in this line that there is actually a walkout basement, but up under the design style, he stated that it's 2.5 stories on a slab. So those are contradictory. The same thing for its original comparable number 3, which is 29 First Lane, Unit 19. Same thing. It has a line item under the rooms below grade. It says walkout, meaning there is a basement, but then stated up above under the quality of construction, he stated under the design, he stated it's 2.5 stories on a slab. So that's totally contradictory. Another item which was missing was the fact that he didn't define whether there's a fireplace or not in the ski areas and properties that are being rented or used during the ski season. Condos that don't have fireplaces are not as desirable. And so that's an adjustment that we typically make for condos that are in the ski areas. There was no mention that there was a fireplace when there is in fact a fireplace. In my comparable analysis, I noted that and I took into consideration the fact that some of my comparables had more than one fireplace. Another thing missing under the heating cooling factor under the features, it states that it's forced hot air and there's no AC, when in fact the property does have AC. If you look at the cover of Mr. Buckley's appraisal, it even shows that there's an air conditioning unit right in the front of the house, which was overlooked also. One of the things that Mr. Buckley included was a list of all the sales that he determined were valid sales, which I would agree with. They probably were valid sales. But he included in his spreadsheet that he included in his appraisal that he was comparing the actual sale price to the grand list value. Now, I looked at this and discovered that the values that he put in for the grand list are not the correct assessed values. They're not from the 2025 grand list. Some of those are from the 2024 grand list, some maybe even from the 2020 grand list. So I actually submitted, the last thing I submitted was a lengthy sales analysis of all the sales that occurred, I believe from 4/1/24 through 7/1/25. And I submitted that because that shows that the grand list values that are in Mr. Buckley's analysis are not correct. And so, well, so the analysis that he did using that listing of all those sales was for the purpose of developing an assessment ratio. Now, there's quite a bit of difference between the CLA in his appraisal. He called it CLA, and the CLA, unless he changed it in his new appraisal, he said the CLA was 58, I believe, something like that, based on comparing the actual sale price to the grand list value. So and he just made the statement in his introductory statement, he stated that the assessment ratio was 71%, which doesn't agree with what's in his appraisal. The fact that he's trying to equate an assessment ratio to the CLA is totally inaccurate. The state determines the CLA, which is the common level assessment, which is done with a study over a 3-year period. The sales are used up until April 1 of 2025. So they use the prior 3 years of sales compared to the current grand list values. And the current CLA for the town is 91.38, which shows that when we did the reappraisal, we were on the low side, which was something that I looked at to try to determine what would be in the best interest of the town. And the best interest of the town is to make sure that we're not over assessing. The CLA is a median ratio. It's a measure of central tendency, and which means that 50% of the sales were lower than 91% and 50% actually higher than 91%. So having a conservative value, my target was actually 95% because I didn't want to be over the at the top of the market. So the state CLA is 91.38. Mr. Buckley is trying to say that the CLA is 71 point something percent, but he's not looking at a 3-year study. He's looking at just a 1-year study, which is fine if you're doing a ratio study. But this ratio study that he's created has nothing to do with adjusting the market value of the property. The only way the market value could be adjusted is by the state calculated CLA. So the list of all those sales and at the last page of Mr. Buckley's appraisal, he put in what he felt was the median assessed median CLA, which again is not the CLA. It's just an assessment ratio. The assessment ratio is not something that can be easily manipulated. Well, it's not a ratio. It's not a statistical measure that can be easily defined. There's a lot of controversy about how it's developed, whether you would be using all the different types of properties in town versus just using the sales in a specific category, such as condominiums. So that analysis, I think, is very subjective. The ratio study can be done and manipulated in different ways by excluding some sales and including others. And in his analysis, he was using what's called the median ratio. To develop a median ratio, because it's a measure of central tendency, then the International Association of Assessing Officers says that the low ratios and the high ratios should be eliminated. And according to the IAAO, if you had 100 sales, you would eliminate 10% of the low sales and 10% of the high sales to come up with a more accurate median. So the actual median that Mr. Buckley is coming up with does not meet International Assessing Officer standards for a median statistical calculation. I'm looking through my paperwork, see if I've covered everything. I think I've covered it all.
Thank you, Russ. Now, any BCA members have questions for Russ based on his recent update presentation?
Yeah, Meg,
Yes, Tom.
Russ, I guess I've been looking at Haystack Highlands since it was built, and it's been there 15 or 20 years now, and I know the quality that's been involved. We have inspected multiple buildings up there over the years, the BCA has, and like a good Doobie. I've been on this board for forever, it seems like, and I've been in a lot of the places. I know this one does not have a full basement, but we've never had anything this low as far as values. We've been through numerous reassessments, but we've never come in with anything this low. And I'll be honest right now, the developer I know for a fact was not building Section 8 housing up there. That's for darn sure. As compared to the others, I know there's been some closings up in the Paystack Highlands area this year for $800,000 and $900,000. I mean, this just doesn't fit right. All right, that's what I'll say. And I did notice the CLA at 58%, and that's just, we've never had a 58% CLA, but that's all right. I just wanted to throw that in. Thank you.
Russ, I have a question about the two sales you mentioned of similar two 1.5-story units on same general design as the condo under appeal. I could not, and you might have supplied that information, but were you basing those on recent sale prices for R2?
No, those were just comparable properties. Those, they didn't sell.
Oh, okay.
So I was just showing you that these were two comparable properties in that complex, and they're valued a little bit higher than actually the Schultz property.
So did you
And they were never appealed.
did you include any sales of similar condos going back the 3-year period? I looked and I couldn't. It didn't seem that was the case.
No,
for the,
this spreadsheet actually, if you can see this spreadsheet,
yeah.
I listed 5 comparable sales within the neighborhood being that condo complex.
Right.
I didn't look at any other sales outside of the Highlands.
Right. So there was one within the time period allowed. There was one green tea place, which is the subject under appeal. Is that correct on your spreadsheet?
There, well, going across, there's Cedar Creek Drive, Unit 15, Cedar Creek Drive, Unit 8,
Right.
Four Seasons Drive, number 12, Four Seasons Drive, 12, Unit. It's cut off, so you can't see it. But again, these are all the sales within that complex to try to determine, again, there's not an abundance of sales, but there's enough there to be used to value any condo in that complex by sales within the complex.
Yeah. My question was, were they the same size as the?
No, definitely not. No, there was no sales of the units with no basements.
Okay. Thank you.
So I made significant adjustments. I lowered the assessed value and the market value. I lowered it considerably for the fact that there was no basement, there was no finished basement, and the total finished area was much less than the comparables.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Russ, did you say that neither of those that had been appealed?
Correct.
The LaRusso and Mazza?
Correct.
LaRusso was appealed last year. And we denied an adjustment.
Let me look at my card. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, it went to the BCA last year, but there was no change. I was just looking at the last value, and it didn't change. So I didn't notice that. But
Just
it-
wanted to be sure I didn't mess up.
yeah, they didn't appeal it after the BCA.
No.
Any other questions from BCA folks?
Yeah, I hope I'm asking this not just for my own benefit, but somewhat new here. And I have gone through all the documents we've been supplied. I've seen the grievance, I've seen the reduction in price, but what I'm unclear on at this moment is what's being asked for. And, you know, it will be helpful to me also. There's been a lot of information exchanged to have a very quick summary of what the main points are when we're done before we meet as a group internally.
Thanks, Matt. Anybody else with a question? because it'll be Mr. Buckley's turn and he could include an answer to your question.
No, this is BCA time, but may I just ask a couple of questions as an ignorant lawyer on this?
Sure,
So
Evan, right?
obviously, we have two experts here who can decipher data and formulas way better than I can. I think that's probably why I became a lawyer, because I'm terrible at math and ratios. My more focus is on the equity piece of this matter. Should this case go to the Superior Court, there would be also an equity determination made by the judge. And so the major question I have is, in looking at Russ's documents, I see back in 2020, the beginning or so of COVID, the BCA valued this property at 295. And then in 4 years, obviously, market trends have changed, as Mr. Buckley has stated. We have an over 100% increase in the assessed value, at least from what I'm seeing in the valuation record, to 680, 540, and that was after BCA, or not BCA, after the appeal to grievance was ruled on. I guess my question universally is this a standard within the town of Wilmington that all properties are seeing close to 120% increase within the span of 4 years? Is that what the market is showing at this point?
It may be for certain complexes, certain types of properties. But as an example of what you're talking about, there was a unit, Cedar Creek Drive, number 8, unit 2, sold in 2021, February of 2021. It sold for $445,000. It sold again on 12/17/2024. It sold for $899,000. So that shows you is an example of what happened in that condo complex. I'm not sure why things went up drastically in that complex, but there's enough market evidence to support that.
Is there, just a follow-up question real quick, Russ, is there enough market evidence to show that that kind of trajectory is going to continue, or is there anything to the contrary that we may be kind of exiting what was a bubble in the real estate market as a whole?
No, everybody I've talked to said the market's leveled off. They're not bidding up. People aren't bidding up like they used to. And also, there's sales that are below asking price. But in general, and that's one of the reasons, like I stated before, I tried to be on the conservative side, just to be fairer and not be at the top of the market. So that's why our CLA is only 91 rather than being over 100.
Thank you.
Or at 100.
Any other questions from BCA members? Okay, Dave Buckley,
Hi.
you wish to respond to the assessor's information?
I've got quite a bit, I guess, to respond to. First and foremost, I would suggest, rather than talking about state required CLA factors or manipulation of data, Russ and I pretty much agree on the sales shown in my grid in my report. We're not far off on that. I don't believe so. And right downstairs in the lister's office are the tax bills that were sent out for those properties. When you look at those tax bills, you are going to see the exact assessment of what those properties were assessed for as of the second half of 2024. There is factual support, and it lies on the tax bills. Any other number is irrelevant. So what happened with my grid is the as a process of the reappraisal, there were carryovers of assessments from 2023. Those at the time of the filing of the PTR, legitimately done correctly. When the reappraisal was released in July or September, the numbers were retroactively changed. When the tax bills went out, those tax bills reflected the retroactive change. Those are the factual numbers that this board should request that either Mr. Bowden certify or the treasurer certify, or choose to say that they don't exist.
Sorry, from the town clerk's office, can you please explain what you're saying?
I'm
The
saying
tax
that
bill, the tax bill states an assessed value. That assessed value is the grant list, which is lodged in the town clerk's office. There's no change from there to the tax bill.
I'm just telling you, the documents are in the treasurer's office, and every one of those tax bills that went out for the year April through March 31st of 2025 have the assessment. The assessment. That's the notice to the taxpayers. We can't disagree with that number because that's what you sent to the taxpayers. It's on the document. You can choose to look at it or choose not to look at it. So
It's the same thing on the grand list. I guess I don't understand what you're saying.
I don't know what's on your grand list. Honestly, I do know what you notice taxpayers their assessments are, and that is the one place you can look, because
That
in the
comes
end,
from the grand list.
I don't care where it comes from. I don't care if it comes from the moon. The assessment is a matter of record.
Yes,
The tax bill goes out and you have access to it if you'd like access to it. If you choose to ignore it, I understand.
Can I say something?
you won't
There-
find anything different.
There's the town has on the town website has two listings. There's one sorted by owner and there's one sorted by location. And that has the exact values, the assessed values that are on the tax bills. There's
Are
no
you talking about the current website?
current website.
The current website data?
Yep.
That data reflects changes you've made in 2025 to properties.
That's
So that's, and I don't, are you in a rolling reappraisal, or are you changing assessments without notice?
No, I don't think that's happening.
I hope not.
Um,
So let's just leave it. Let's not go back and forth. I'm saying that if you look at the tax bills, it's the assessment. If you say that's wrong, I accept that. Okay. Now, Mr. Bowden has said that he's restricted to only considering sales in the subject condominium project. Now, the implication is that buyers of real estate only behave towards one particular condominium project if they're seeking to look at their options of purchasing a condominium in the Wilmington, Dover area. Now, it just makes no sense that a condominium in the neighborhood should definitely be considered as market data, with a valid indication of buyer behavior. And Mr. Bowden has said he's not going to do that. If these properties, I'll tell you how close they are. Let's see how close they are. 0.19 miles and 0.17 miles. That's pretty close. Mr. Bowden's telling you he can't pay any attention to those sales because they're not in the same complex. That's contrary to all professional appraisal standards. Mr. Bowden is not a licensed appraiser, but he purports to go over my report like he is a licensed appraiser, telling you what is important and what is not important. I really think we should consider that testimony in the context of his expertise, which is none in the appraisal business. He's an assessor. Could be a very good assessor, but he's not an appraiser.
Mr. Buckley, can I ask you, and I'm looking for it on the appraisal, what is the valuation you are requesting for your client?
I have to get there too, and I'll,
Is it? Have to stay with it.
I've lost that window. I'm looking.
I think it's on, is it page 2 of 18 of the latest one down at the bottom? There's a number there. Just wanted to make sure we have it correctly.
I do too. Somehow I'm not able to bring that up, and I'll do it right now if you give me just a second. All right. I got it. On page 3, I have the fair market value of $455,000 adjusted with a common level of assessment of 58%.
So what is so you were saying the valuation is what that you're requesting?
Well, you're required to determine the fair market value and make an equity adjustment to keep it in equitable to the assessment ratio. That's what the case law says, or that's what the case law will say if it goes to the next level. I will amend this report right now. And I will say that 58% represented the carry forward of the 23 assessments. Mr. Bowden's equalization study came up at 60% when it carried those same numbers forward. When we corrected those numbers because they were modified mid-year pre tax bills based on Bowden's work that became the grand list somewhere around June of 24, not April. We determined that when we eliminated those carryovers, the proper CLA was 70%. So I'm representing that the property should be, you should find a market value. Let's see if I can get into my calculator here. You should find a market value of 455,000 and an assessment of $318,500 to make it equitable to the way you're assessing other properties in Wilmington at the present time. I would also like to say that Mr. Bowden's chart of sales within the condominium project go back many years. They're not current market data. And it sounded to me like he was putting equal emphasis on a very old or dated sale of a property that was basically twice the size of the subject, when he had 2 sales right next door that he could have referenced, and he had 2 sales across the street. Now, those properties across the street are just, they're stylistically a little different. All of the condominiums were treated as condominiums on a slab because they were built into the side of the ones across the street were built into the side of a hill, so that the architecture stacked 3 levels. And so they walk out on the golf course at the ground level. They have a second level and they have a third level. They're essentially, the square footages on those properties are real close. And essentially what we're really talking about is what are condominiums plus or minus 2,000 square feet with amenities of 3 bedrooms and 3 baths selling for in the neighborhood of the Highlands. That's what this property is. It is not a 37,000 or 3,700 square foot multi-level condominium. And I agree that Mr. Bowden implied that the 2 other ones in there he used as comparables, but they're not comparable. He used his comparable assessments, which it strikes me are a little high as well, as justification for accepting his premise.
Okay, thank you. I think we got all the information you wish to convey, unless, do you have a question?
Would you ask him to explain the adjustments he made on the comparables?
We have a question about the adjustments you made on the comparables of the latest appraisal we got.
What's the
Which-
question?
Can you explain them, please?
Explain the adjustments.
Oh, sure, be happy to. The selection of the comparables was an attempt to bracket this market for properties with similar attributes measured by square footage, bedrooms, baths, age. The age is really an effective age reflection as opposed to a physical age. Along that adjustment line for condition, the process of going average plus, average minus in the lending field, it's C2, C3, C4, really doesn't really provide the appraiser the opportunity to make an adjustment based on this. In this case, it was age. The two that were adjusted from I don't know which one you're looking at, but the two that were adjusted, I don't know where to lead you on Zoom here, but the two that were adjusted similarly with a similar average designation reflected my judgment from looking at interior pictures on MLS and recognizing that these properties were 35 years old rather than 15 years old, that their condition was not as up to the par as the subject. And what it does is it pulls my estimate up from 415 and from 430, not lower it. So it's my attempt to recognize that they're not quite as good. The adjustments in general are very, very few. And I can't emphasize that enough.
So you're adding $10,000 to a 35-year-old unit versus the subject 15-year unit.
Recognizing that it's older, yes. Now the adjustment process is one of recognizing that you have a range of values that are expressed by the sale price at the top, and you are using those the adjustment process to bring yourself into a closer number in the middle, recognizing that the highest number is probably superior and the lowest number is probably inferior. It's called a bracketing process. On the next page, if you look at the adjustment process, is described for you on the comments section of the next page, and that pretty much sums up what's going on in an appraiser's head when he's making adjustments. But I'd be happy to answer anything particular.
So why would a 3-bedroom, 3.5 bath be reduced by 10,000 compared to a 3-bedroom, 3-bath?
Bathroom. Recognize you have another half bath.
So a half bathroom.
Yeah.
And then
it might not be it might be
average condition, or an average condition increases by 15,000.
It was yes, because the subject was newer, and while I think that's also average too, that's probably the too general descriptive term, but it's a judgment call. The subject was 15 years old, an average condition for a 15-year-old property. The comparable 35-year-old properties were in average condition, but not in as good condition as the newer one. And I attempted to recognize an overall difference that's reflected actually in the sale prices of $25,000. The Man property and the First Lane property were older and not remodeled. And
so a 20-year older unit, not remodeled, would be increased by $25,000.
Within the range of the sales that are shown for your viewing, yes. It's my opinion that you have to recognize differences. If you read the adjustment description on the following page that follows the grid, it will explain to you what's going on. I
Okay,
would,
thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, thank you. I think our next step is to make an appointment for a site inspection by 3 of us. And I'm wondering if we could do that now, if how would we get access to the townhouse? If someone's present who could answer that, we can, and if the owner needs to be present or what the procedure is that they wish.
I think Danielle would be the one to answer that. I think she just unmuted, so.
Yes, Danielle is still here.
Hi,
I
Danielle.
can, thank you. I can work with you on timing and availability. We would like to be at the property to walk through it with you. And we can do that in a timely manner.
Okay, great. Who is available to do the inspection this time? See Tony's hand. Anybody else? I can't.
It
I know
depends
I-
when it is, really.
Okay.
I got a
and
calendar in front of me, though. Please go whenever you're ready.
Charlie, and do we have a third person? Tom. Okay, thank you guys. Do you want to suggest a time that's convenient for the 3 of you and we can arrange it with Danielle?
I'm not sure about everybody else's schedule, but I'm free all day tomorrow. If you want to do it that soon, or we can look up next week.
Sorry, if we could do next week, that would be a little bit easier.
I'm free on
Um,
Monday,
Okay,
free on Thursday. Tuesday and Wednesday are open. So I'm pretty flexible next week at this point.
Tom and Charlie?
I will, whatever arrangement you want to make, I will be there.
I'm not available Monday. And hold on, I gotta look at the rest of the week. And I'm not available. What day is today? Hold on a second. Oh, we're already into
This-
October. Oh my goodness.
Ho, ho, ho.
Monday is the one day I'm not available. I'm not available Monday or Friday. But any of the other days I'm available after like 9:30 a.m.
Tony, did you pick a day?
I'm
Tuesday?
fine. Tuesday or Wednesday. Sorry about that.
And Danielle, would that work for you?
yes, we can plan for Tuesday.
How about Tuesday morning?
Sure.
Okay, that's the best time.
What time? What
Say
time?
9:30, 10 o'clock, either one.
9:30
9:30 would be great.
Okay,
on Tuesday, which is October or September
30th.
September 30th. Okay,
9:30 on 9:30.
9:30 too early for Charlie?
Nope,
Charlie, is
work.
9:30 okay?
that works.
Okay. All right, so we have an inspection group who will meet with Danielle, the owner, on the 30th at 9:30. And I think it's time to recess the hearing to a date not more than 30 years, 30 days, 30 days.
That'll give us some time.
And do we have a
Yeah.
date for that?
Yes,
Yeah, we did.
October the 8th,
October, that'll be October 8th,
4 p.m.
4 p.m., where we'll hear a report from the inspection committee
all
at
right.
that point. So,
Okay.
thank you, everybody. I'll recess the hearing. And we have to continue to do some BCA business, so if anybody wants to stay, you're welcome to. We are going to hear some inspection committee reports from 2 previous inspections.
Just one, I have it in my calendar for the 9th, not October 8th. I don't know if that's important to the larger group here, but
No, we changed it to the 8th at 4 o'clock.
It's at
Okay,
the 8th
okay.
at 4. Yeah, I think we made a change. Thanks,
Okay.
Matt.
Thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you
Okay.
all.
Um,
So now, on the agenda, we need to, we've done the, we're here inspection reports for the Boys property and the Madeha properties. Boys, want to go first?
Any of you need copies?
I got a copy here.
I could use a voice.
Okay.
Report, please.
Yep.
Oh, I'm recused. Never mind.
Yeah.
Ignore me. I don't need a report.
We don't want it for you. Follow along.
Okay.
Okay,
The report?
I'll present. Is it okay to go?
Yep.
Okay, this is the, from the inspection committee, Nikki Steele, John LeBron, and Bonnie Lorimer. Inspection of land on Lake Raponda Road, Wilmington, Vermont. Property ID is 02321012.000. Owner is Robert and Carol DeGroot, Boys trustees. The inspection was done on Friday, September 5th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Carol DeGroot Boys was present at the inspection. The property, identified as land only, is a 0.2000 parcel, which includes access to the lake. The property is further identified on the assessor's card as waterfront homesite. All four corners of the property of the parcel were marked with pins or flags. Frontage on the road appears to be 50 feet, although we did not document the measurement with a tape. And it also has 50-foot frontage on the water, also not documented by the inspection team. The overall shape of the property is rectangular. While the property can be accessed from Lake Raponda Road, the access is a bit rough, and the committee used the neighboring property access for the first couple of feet and then merged into the subject property. The upper portion of the property is generally overgrown with bushes and small to medium-sized trees. It does, however, have the trunk/base of a very large tree. This tree was cut down due to its rotting condition. Several large chunks of the fallen tree remain on the property. There's a town culvert running under Lake Raponda Road, which protrudes into and empties water onto the subject property. It was difficult to determine a flow path of any water given the overall dry conditions experienced. It is presumed that the large chunks of fallen, rotted trees will affect the flow pattern of water when it comes through the culvert. There is a somewhat definable footpath running from the road to the water's edge. It is walkable, although it is encumbered by leaves and small twigs and fallen branches. About 2/3 way down the property, the gentle terrain becomes suddenly steep for a short distance before becoming flat or level at the bottom. There is a contour to this level area that suggests spring snow melt and rainwater may puddle/pool here. There are 2 canoes/kayaks in this area. There are 2 docks on either corner of the property. As you face the water, the smaller dock is on the right.
Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate it. Now the Madeha report. I'll read that. The Board of Civil Authority from John LeBron, Andrew Kirkman, and Meg Streeter regarding the inspection of 35 Miller Road property ID number 003-02-048.7000, which is land, shed, and a camper owned by Roman and Myron Madeha. The inspection was made on September 5th, 2025 at 11 a.m. Neither the owner nor the assessor was present. Property consists of 43.4 acres with frontage on both Higley Hill Road and Miller Road, the road that leads to the town of Wilmington's transfer station. Miller Road, which is a paved road, bisects the property. There's a stream at the front of the property adjacent to Higley Hill Road. There's a wetlands area of several acres in the vicinity. There's a gravel dirt driveway to a cleared area on the right side of the property. This driveway serves a camp, shed, camper, golf carts, several unregistered cars, as well as a dump truck, bulldozer, excavator, and other construction equipment. The portion of the property on the left-hand side of Miller Road is heavily wooded and has a narrow walking trail. The 16 by 16 foot camp is set on concrete blocks, comprises a single room with a stainless steel chimney suitable for a wood stove, a range, large refrigerator, big screen TV, and a bed sleeping area. Numerous electrical cords are present, but the power isn't on. The power line is buried and runs to a connection on Miller Road. There is an outhouse to the rear of the camp. The camper and a small garage are nearby and appear to be usable. This area of Wilmington is zoned residential. There's a wide variety of houses in the vicinity. Most houses are located on lots of several acres. With 43.4 acres, this is one of the larger lots and is closer to the Wilmington transfer station than any of the other developed lots. The value under appeal is $146,840. So I think we will, Therese, end the open part of the session and we're gonna enter the deliberative session. So nobody's screen will go blank, right?